everybody, Ellie here with WhoCulture with another video for you. How many videos are we giving you in a week? You lucky lot, you! It's Doctor Who Magazine Day. A new edition of Doctor Who Magazine has been released, and we're going to talk about just a few things that we've noticed in this edition. But before I get into that, let's address the Paul McGann elephant in the room. Obviously, we have seen a report in the Mirror that an Eighth Doctor spin-off is confirmed. I'm not going to dwell on this too much, I'm not going to talk about it much, for two reasons. One, it's a report in the Mirror, and as we've said many times before, we take everything they report with a pinch of salt. It's not a confirmed thing, and it's also not from the reporter that we know to be the most trustworthy one in relation to Doctor Who content and news. Russell T Davies has literally said, spin-offs are happening, but not the ones that you've seen reported online. So, yes, we've seen the report, yes, it would be great, we're on board for an Eighth Doctor spin-off, but it's not confirmed, so we're not going to touch on it very much. Let's move on, shall we? So as I mentioned, Doctor Who Magazine, a new edition was released today, a new issue was released today. Like the SFX discussion that we had, what we're going to talk about here is just a tiny, teeny fraction of what is revealed and reported on in this edition. So if you do want all the full details and all of the interviews and scoops, then go and buy this edition of Doctor Who Magazine. We have been seeing a lot of accounts, particularly on Twitter, posting full pages and entire quotes and pretty much all the information from these editions of the magazines, sometimes before they've even hit the shelves in the shops. This is not a good thing. You know, if we want to continue getting these exclusive scoops and interviews, we need to support the magazines and the businesses themselves. And by releasing all the content online for free completely undermines the hard work that these journalists and editors have put into these magazines. And for those of you who are being naughty and revealing everything, stop it. In this latest edition of Doctor Who Magazine, there are previews for the Star Beast and for Wild Blue Yonder, and there was a detail revealed in the Wild Blue Yonder preview that caught our attention. Now, I think, generally speaking, it's assumed that when a new showrunner comes along in a brand new era, a lot of the things that came previously are kind of swept under the rug. Not ignored, per se, because that makes it seem malicious. But when a new showrunner comes in, they have an idea of and a new vision of where they want to go, and they don't really want to dwell on the things that came before because they want to take the show in their own direction. And I think one of the particular elements that myself included and many fans felt probably wouldn't be addressed moving forward was the Timeless Child arc. I mean, even Chris Chibnall didn't really continue with that storyline after that episode. It wasn't really addressed. It was kind of swept under the rug by Chris Chibnall, so I think it was kind of rightfully assumed that that was not really going to be taken any further. But in this preview for Wild Blue Yonder, Russell T Davies does actually state that they will be addressing it to some degree, and this is what he said. The history of the Flux and the Timeless Child is dealt with very slightly in this episode, to acknowledge the brilliant work Chris Chibnall did, and to say that's absolutely part of our history as well. So for those of you who might have forgotten or aren't aware, the Timeless Child story arc was revealed in the Series 12 finale, The Timeless Children, and basically it was revealed that the Doctor was an unknown being from some other dimension, and their ability to regenerate was basically extracted from them and spliced into the Gallifreyans to form the Time Lords. And it was also revealed that there were many other incarnations of the Doctor prior to William Hartnell. So I think personally, when the Timeless Child arc was initially revealed, I wasn't on board with it. It confused me massively, and I wasn't entirely sure where they were going with it. Upon further inspection and really thinking about it a little bit more, I think parts of it work and parts of it don't. I think at first I was like, oh, this disrupts everything we've known for the last 60 years, but when you really think about it, we've added other incarnations of the Doctor into the lineup before, and nobody really complained about it then. I mean, when John Hurt was introduced as a Doctor that came in between 8 and 9, nobody, I mean, yes, maybe some people complained, but it was just accepted. Oh, we've got another incarnation here. Completely disrupted the counting, the numbers of the Doctor, but it was okay. So I think the idea that there can be incarnations prior to William Hartnell absolutely makes sense. I mean, when we met the Doctor in that very, very first episode, you know, he had an entire backstory, and so it's reasonable to assume that there may have been many lives before then. You know, regeneration didn't even exist at that point, so as the story develops, of course, things are going to be added. I think the element of it that I don't particularly like is the idea that the Doctor is some mysterious being. You know, for as long as we've known, pretty much, you know, the Doctor is a Time Lord from Gallifrey, and that's it's so relevant to the story of the Doctor. So that part of it, I think, was what I wasn't so sure about and so happy about, not least of all because we got no answers about it. I think I've said this before on the channel, but I personally think that this whole Timeless Child arc would have worked so much better had it been the Master. I think it would have added a whole new level to the kind of egotistical arrogance of the Master, to kind of elevate this god complex that the Master already seems to have. I already feel superior, and now there's proof that I am the reason that the Time Lords exist, and you must bow down to me as your Lord and Creator. And I think that would have added a really interesting new level and element to that relationship, to the Master as a character, but that's just my thoughts. Don't get me wrong, there were issues with it. So I guess the biggest question really then is, how big will this kind of 60th Timeless Child connection be? Are we going to finally learn where the Doctor came from? I mean, the thing is with Wild Blue Yonder in particular is we know next to nothing about the episode, so literally anything could happen. And I know we've had a little bit of speculation that this might be an episode that really takes a deep dive into the Doctor, the Doctor personally, and perhaps maybe takes a look back at the Doctor's history, in which case are we going to go as far as seeing some of these pre-Hartnell incarnations of the Doctor? I mean, is this a way to have kind of a multi-Doctor story without having any of the Doctors that we know of in it? I think that would be cheating. I don't think that would be the direction they go in, but it's a possibility. I think for me, the thing that I would like to learn more than anything is, you know, we were given this big mystery of the Doctor actually came from somewhere else, and then that was never answered. So for me, I think if anything is going to be revealed, I'd like to know where it is the Doctor actually came from. All we really learned in The Timeless Children was they came through this purple void thing. And you know what I've just thought? In the trailer for the 60th, don't ask me which one, in one of the trailers, there's a purple void. Are we going to learn where the Doctor comes from? How weird is that a thing to say, when for most of what you've known of Doctor Who, you know the Doctor comes from Gallifrey? Isn't it weird to suddenly say we're going to learn where the Doctor comes from? But are we? If we're being completely honest, I don't actually think that this is going to happen. It's lovely to speculate and have all of these massive theories, but quite honestly, if you look at that quote from Russell T Davies, he says that they're going to touch upon it very slightly. So I think what we're more likely to get is a passing comment, an addressing of it, an acknowledgement of it, but I don't really think we're going to go too deep into it, if I'm being completely honest. To me, what it sounds more like is that Russell T Davies just really wants to make sure Chris Chibnall's contributions to Doctor Who are honoured. And quite honestly, I respect that, and I think that is the right and decent thing to do. I don't think it is right. I know a lot of people have called for this to happen, and quite honestly, I don't think it's right to completely undermine and ignore or rewrite over somebody else's hard work. You don't have to agree with it, you can take the show in a different direction, but to completely disregard it, I don't think that's the right thing to do. And I think Russell T Davies is completely aware, he's not oblivious, he is active on social media, I think he's fully aware of the kind of fan views on the Timeless Child arc, but I also fully respect the fact that he is going to honour what his predecessor has added into the Whoniverse lore and canon, and is going to acknowledge it without completely just stamping all over it. So good on you, RTD. The other thing that obviously was mentioned is Flux. That was something else that Russell said would be very slightly touched upon, which I think is a very good thing, because again, we had absolutely no closure or answers about that. I mean, the literal universe was like ravaged by some big cloud, and then what happened? Nothing. Power of the Doctor happened, and was it even mentioned? I don't think so. So it would be nice to just get a little bit of an explanation as to what happened in the aftermath of that situation. Is that somehow going to link into how all of these weird things are happening in the 60th anniversary? Again, I don't think so. I think there will be some sort of slight mention of it, which will probably be the extent to which it will go. But I like that these loose ends are going to hopefully be tied off. I don't like loose ends and loose threads. All in all, what I think is going to happen is it will be acknowledged, but not explored. The one last thing that I did think was quite sneaky of this edition in Doctor Who magazine was the cast list for Wild Blue Yonder had 3 redacted names. And we don't know who that's going to be, so I think now would be a good time for you to go and check out our video of 10 characters who must return for the 60th anniversary. And in the meantime, I've been Ellie with WhoCulture, and in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.